Hello, my name is Daniel. I run this triathlon YouTube channel called TriathlonDan, but I'm a massive fan of the sport of professional long and middle distance triathlon. And I think that media within this space is changing probably forever, and here's why. Now, these are just my thoughts. I'm no expert. As I say, I'm just a fan of the sport and a fan of the athletes, but these are things that I've observed over the last couple of years and I wanted to share in video form with you. Please do feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So when I first started following the sport of triathlon, pretty much the only coverage of pro racing was in triathlon magazines, triathlon news articles, Facebook pages, those sorts of things. And over the last few years, we've seen individual athletes really work and grow their individual profile, be it online on different platforms for various different reasons. And I think that is the way that media is going to go. And I've got a few examples of why I think that is. The first place I want to start is on the Obsessed Triathlete website. Now, this is a website which basically compiles loads of statistics from across the triathlon world. It's got its own ranking system, both across short course and long course, and loads of other things. But the bit that I'm interested in for this video is social stats. Now, this might not seem important for a professional triathlete. However, I think it actually is. When it comes to athletes making a living from the sport and commanding sponsorship deals, it's looking like, in my opinion, the sort of social presence of an athlete is getting up there with the importance of race results. I'd be interested to hear from some pros. If you want to drop any comments down below, feel free to do so, about how much pressure there is from sponsors or how much weight sponsors put on your social media platform versus your race results. But here's just what I'm observing. So this ranking system basically ranks individuals and organizations' social media platforms, and it is purely numbers based, so it's not always the best measure. But looking here, we've filtered by social stats, YouTube, athletes, and this ranks people in order of number of subscribers on YouTube. So we can see there Lionel Sanders taking the lead, Lucy Charles Barkley in second, Gwen Jorgensen in third, but you can see the sort of numbers that we're talking about. So around about 160,000 subscribers for Lionel, down to sort of in the mid 50s, 30 odd, and some of these athletes don't put too much effort into the social media, but some of them do. And what an absolute, what a tool to have to be able to see who is out there. Now, TriathlonDan coming in hot at 21st, bit of a discussion point as to whether I fit the criteria of an athlete or not, but whatever, I'll take it. But we can see here various different athletes. Now, if we filter to Instagram, same sort of deal, number of followers, rankings, and this shows how they've changed in the last however long as well. So whether they're gaining or losing subscribers and what their engagement rate is as well. That's quite an interesting statistic. I know that a few years ago it was quite popular for people to buy followers, and that's quickly found out, I think, with that engagement rate. But I'm not here to call anybody out for that. If we filter through to organizations as well, you can see, the different organizations, what their following's like, and medias as well, what their followings are like. So really interesting to look at. I don't think it's a case of, if you're ahead of somebody else, you're better than somebody else at social media. Numbers aren't always the best measure, particularly subscribers on YouTube, but that's a separate conversation. But let's delve into it a little bit further. So I just selected a few names from those top 20 or so YouTube pages to have a quick look at and just to talk about my thoughts about it, because I think that sometimes you can tell that people have started YouTube before they've developed as an athlete. Sometimes they've got big results and then started YouTube. So I'd be interested to hear as to why people think that is, whether that's sponsor pressure, or whether that's because people, as their teams grow and as their finances improve, they can employ a videographer and now they can do it without committing too much time to it. So an example of somebody doing it later is Sam Laidlow. So he didn't start a YouTube channel until after his second place in Kona last year. So great content, good training insight, and really good, but he hasn't actually really committed to loads of videos or a regular upload schedule. So it's good to see, but I don't think he's really targeting YouTube as, right, I'm going to make this a big platform. I might be wrong, but that's the impression I get from the 6 videos he's put up. These are in no order, by the way. Sam Long, I followed him for some time now. Sam has gone through different phases of having a videographer, not having a videographer, doing vlogs himself, and I absolutely love it. I think Sam's content is pretty raw, but what the purpose of this video isn't to review each YouTube channel. It's just to show that if I want to know how Sam Long's training's going, I'm not going to read an article, I'm not going to look in a magazine, I'm going to look on his YouTube channel or his Instagram page, because I know that, if I want to see how he won 70.3 Boulder, well, he's put a video up that's 17 minutes long in which he talks about his performance and what his goals were, how he performed, showing his numbers. What better insight could you ask for than that? It's absolutely brilliant. Joe Skipper, now I think Joe's a little bit different to the others in that he's put YouTube videos online for some time, and I think he's done it for his own enjoyment in the past rather than actual sponsor commitments. And his channel's not the biggest, but the views actually actually do really well, often outstripping his subscriber number. I particularly like Joe's content because it's just so real. I used to live near Joe. I don't really know him. I spoke to him a couple of times. I wouldn't say we're best friends, but Joe, please reply to my messages. But you know, he shares his training, in which if you follow his channel, you probably know he trains with a couple of retired blokes. He trains with a local runner. Like, he's documenting those things, and they're not like, oh, look at me having this amazing lifestyle. They're like, this is me day in, day out, getting the training done. And all of these videos are essentially that. You can look through him, you know, collaborating with other people, doing training sessions, and working in a group, and just being a normal bloke. And in the same sort of thing, if I want to know how Joe's race went at the ITU Worlds, I'd go to his YouTube channel. I wouldn't go to an article about it, because I know he's going to be raw and giving his sort of unfiltered opinion. Daniel Bakkegaard, now he is somebody who I think is a little bit different in that he's only started YouTube, I say quite recently, nearly a year ago, but it feels like more recently he's really started working on it. And from what I can gather from his videos, he takes a videographer with him on his training camps, like full-time, employing somebody to do this content. And the content quality is absolutely brilliant. He's currently doing a Road to Roth series, which is far better than my own Road to Roth series that I'm currently doing. He's training in these fabulous places in St. Moritz. Like, the backdrop is incredible, the training is incredible, but what you get from this that you don't get in a magazine or an article is his sense of humor. He's talked about things like he bought a new sofa and he didn't like it because it's from IKEA and it was softer in the shop than it was when he got it. He's spoken about all the things that are just an insight into his world and his life, and I really enjoy that as a fan of the sport, because then when I watch Daniel Bakkegaard racing, I'm not just thinking, oh, he's a Canyon athlete and he's sponsored by whoever else. I'm thinking, oh, that's Daniel Bakkegaard. Oh, and he had that problem with his sofa. And like, I know a bit more about his personality. So when I'm watching him race, I feel a bit more connected to him, and I'm more likely to engage with him and you know, comment things and support. If you know, the lineup of athletes, say, who are you supporting today? I probably get, oh, Daniel Bakkegaard, because I like his videos. So really, really interesting and really great content. Harry Palmer. Now, I do know Harry Palmer fairly well, and he is somebody, again, who has a slightly different journey. Harry started documenting his journey on YouTube when he was an age grouper. So he went through a journey of qualifying as a professional triathlete, and then he lost his elite license in the UK. You have to meet certain criteria to keep it, and then he regained it, and that whole journey was a roller coaster. And then now he's a pro. He's now documenting his training and racing on YouTube, and that's pretty standard for what triathlon YouTubers seem to do. But what Harry does is also document the life side of it as well. He'll often share things that don't go well, and I know in the back of my mind, this guy a year, 2 years, 3 years ago was on this journey to become a pro, and you still have that in your mind. I don't think he talks about that enough. I wanted to talk about Harry as well, because I think he's somebody who, up until he's just finished second at Challenge Wales, right? So he's not a nobody, but I'm sure he'd admit he's not a top tier pro, but I know he has got some brilliant deals this year with regard to kit and equipment and help otherwise. And I think that's largely down to his social media platform. And that's no like, oh, it's only because he's got a YouTube channel. He puts real effort and work into this. He's got a videographer working for him. It is a big focus of him. Whenever he goes to a race, it's right, how can I document this in the best way? How can I get a good race day video together? Because he understands the value of it. And now he's stitching that together with some great race results. I think he's really on the road to success, both on the triathlon race circuit and in the more commercial sort of, you know, triathlon making a living world. So he's also a coach as well. And yeah, I really like his content. He doesn't put out a huge amount of videos, maybe like one a week, but he puts real effort into it, and that's okay. So yeah, good work, Harry. I'm trying not to spend ages talking about these channels, but I'm finding that I am. So Ben and Courtney Canoe, Lucy Charles Barkley, Gwen Jorgensen, Ruth Assel, Holly Lawrence, these are all people, that triathlon, in fact, I'll come back to that triathlon life in a minute. Those are all people who have done the same sort of thing. So they're documenting their journey, they're documenting their training. Lucy Charles Barkley has done a brilliant job of it. I believe her sister is a videographer, and she's been obviously doing a lot of the work for Lucy, but that is absolutely brilliant. Like, what a big following. And again, I'm sure it's a big factor in her triathlon life. Now, a little bit differently, that triathlon life. Now, this is Eric Lagerstrom and Paula Findlay. So again, documenting triathlon training, documenting racing. But the difference with Eric and Paula, I think, is they've really created a community. They have like a Zwift club, they have like a Facebook group, they have a podcast, they have merchandise. They've created, well, they've captured this audience, and then they've created a thing from it. They've actually found, what else can we do with these people who follow us, other than just thanks for watching our videos? And the quality of content they put out is absolutely brilliant. I won't be able to find it now if I flick to it, but Eric Lagerstrom last year announced his partnership with Specialized, and the video that he put out in which he announced it wasn't just like, super stoked to announce I'm now a partner with blah, 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 I've loved this brand forever, whatever. He actually made a music video. Him and his friend, who's I believe is a songwriter and a videographer, wrote a song which is called S Working It, and then made a video where he built the bike, but it's just like a music video, and it's such a cool little announcement video. It's like, that is so different and so engaging. I absolutely loved it, and that is way better than any sort of like magazine announcement, those sorts of things. So love that, and I take personal inspiration from that. Build a community, use the community, and develop the community sort of aspect that they've developed. Tim and Rinny, again, now Tim and Rinny have both been at the top of the sport, so it's not like they're just lifestyle athletes, as we hear the term banded around. But again, they have really used this platform to document their life. They haven't been too active on YouTube recently. I know they're obviously 2 children, training as pro triathletes, and I know Rinny's recently retired, but I'm sure it's full on. But that shows that they have, a big focus on that YouTube platform, and I've definitely followed a lot of their content, particularly during lockdowns, and I know that I watch this sort of thing, and I'm more often than not, I'm watching it to see how the racing's going, how the training's going. Liz, my other half, will sit with me and watch these videos, and she'll be really interested in the children and the life and what does the kitchen look like and all those sorts of things. So that content is not just appealing to the athletes or wannabe athletes, it's also appealing to people who are just vaguely interested in the sport or vaguely interested in triathlon, and they're more interested in the life behind it. So cool. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about media, because that is also what the angle of this video is about. Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not poo-pooing triathlon media. I think the more noise and the more eyes on the sport, the better. But I can see how media outlets are struggling with this, because people putting all their own content on their own channels, they're not having to go somewhere for an interview, they're not having to give away rights to something, and in many cases, they're generating their own income from those contents. So Bob Babbitt, for example, I know I've met Bob in Kona a few years ago, a brilliant guy, and his platform is fantastic. Years ago, it was probably the place where you could only hear from people who were in Kona on Breakfast with Bob, and I would tune in and refresh the page and all of that, and that still happens. But when he's competing against other people having their own platforms, it's difficult, and you can definitely see when Bob is at a race, you can see how not every athlete will go to Breakfast with Bob. Many of them do, and they definitely should do, because Bob does so much great for the sport, but you can see how they're probably torn between all the other sponsor commitments they have, their own content, and then going to something like a Breakfast with Bob. So some of his most popular videos, all the big athletes, Jan Frodeno, Gustav Iden, Lionel Sanders, and so on, and they've done brilliantly big views. But if I was to look back at the last year or two, they've not quite been the same. But again, I just want to reiterate, Bob is great for the sport and I absolutely love him, but that's just how media is changing a bit, in my opinion. Additionally to that, you have people like Try247, and again, not poo-pooing what they're doing, but they've done this a couple of times. So Lionel Sanders will put a video out, and they essentially write a transcript of the video, and they're talking about what Lionel said in the video. They do link the video, make it dead obvious it's coming from that video, and that's fine, that's brilliant. That's like cross media outlet, partnership in just promoting each other, great. But this is essentially like just a transcript of Lionel's video, and I would never sit here and read that over clicking on the video and actually getting that raw emotion from the athlete. And we know Lionel's one of the most emotional people on the circuit, isn't he? So a fan of it giving additional eyes, but I just think that there are probably more people going to click on the video and watch that than read this article. But of course, they want to write this article so that they can place ads on there. So the Outlaw Half Holcomb, get your entrance in, by the way, I'll be there. Those sorts of things are interesting. Finally, I wanted to give one reference to Instagram. I haven't really talked about Instagram very much because I think Instagram's a bit hit and miss in terms of actual engagement, but Daniel Bakkegaard isn't just doing the long form content, he's also really focusing on the short form, and I want to play you this one reel that he's done and talk a little bit about it.
I know I'm supposed to post reels like this, but I need you to see it like this. I know I'm supposed to post...
Right. That's just an 8-second reel. It's probably taken a lot longer than that to put together. He's not just, I've got some videos, make it into a reel like I sometimes do. He's focusing on, right, how do I engage these Instagram followers? Landscape video is great for YouTube, it's rubbish for Instagram. He's making you engage, so right, I normally do this, but I need you to watch it like this. And I think, yeah, that's great. It's going to be a bit better viewer engagement. What he's actually doing is just engaging with you. Hi, I know you do this, but watch this. You're probably going to watch it, and that's a lot better for the algorithm, a lot better for the engagement, and of course the content is top quality. So things like that just show me that athletes, particularly the top end pro athletes, are really thinking about this content and how they can be a leader in that space. I feel like I've rambled on enough about that, but I'm basically a massive fan of all of it. I just think it's changing a little bit. I don't cover professional triathlon racing on my channel very often. If I meet a pro, I love to get them on and talk about either racing or their life or whatever, but I'm not like a news channel. I'm not going to react to race results and stuff, more just because I haven't got time, and I don't think there's good content. There's already quite a few channels that already do that sort of thing. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sorry it's a long one. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon.